as they were going along the road, someone said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said, "Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Hi, welcome to Week 5, Field Trip Week.
This is the fifth Sunday, Field Trip Sunday, and just want to give a short summary of the past month and focus specifically on the Luke 9:57 through 62 passage. And it's really interesting. We meet in this passage three, I like to call would-be disciples. Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown give these three disciples some neat names. But the first disciple they call the precipitate disciple. The disciple who sort of jumps headlong without even thinking, just charges right ahead, doesn't even wait for Jesus to say, "Follow me." He says, "I'm going to follow you, Jesus." But what happens? He doesn't consider the cost. And when Jesus says, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head," we don't hear from this disciple again. So the Bible doesn't say it, but we can sort of guess that he doesn't follow Jesus anymore. And this commentator said this. He said, specifically of Jesus, "He does not need your pity, but pity yourself rather if you have a home that holds you back when Christ wants you out upon the high places of the world." I thought that was really powerful. Don't pity Christ, pity yourself if you have all the trappings of the material world and you can't go and serve Christ. Number two, this commentary calls the procrastinating disciple, which I think is a little bit of a stretch in this passage. But the idea is that he doesn't follow Christ right away, right? He has something else he wants to do, so he's procrastinating. He's putting off following Christ. He's delaying it. And it's interesting because he wants to delay following Christ by doing a good thing, doesn't he? He wants to bury his father, which is a fine thing to do. It's a good thing. But I think the idea here is that if any good thing is placed before Christ, placed before Jesus, then that instantly becomes a bad thing. It becomes sin. So here we see a disciple that wants to follow Christ, but he's placing something else before that, a good thing, which then becomes sin. The third disciple in this passage, I wish he could have come up with another P word, but he calls it the irresolute disciple. The irresolute disciple. And again, I think this is a little bit of a stretch, but it helped me sort of remember what the story is about. That's why I'm using it. Irresolute meaning that he has a difficult time making a decision. But according to the passage, it's not that he has a difficult time making a decision. It's actually pretty clear. He says he wants to go back and do what? According to your version, my version says bid farewell, say goodbye. And the Greek literally means that. It means that he is going back with a specific purpose of tying things up. In other words, giving his final instructions. He is leaving for good, and he wants to tell his family about that. So in the passage, it seems very clear that his mind is set. He's going back to his family. He's giving his final instructions, saying goodbye. He's leaving. Now, one of two things could be happening here. It could be that something else is going on completely different from what we see in the passage. In other words, a lot of times people say things to Jesus, but Jesus really sees the heart of the matter. He knows what's really going on in the person's heart. So it could be that this man hasn't made up his mind. He's going back home to his family, and he could change his mind, and Jesus knows that and is calling him out on that. Jesus sees the heart of the person and sort of bypasses what's being said and goes to the heart of the matter. That's possible. But another possibility is just simply to take the passage at face value and look at the words of the disciple. What does he say? "I will follow you, but first." So essentially he's saying, "Yes, Lord," and "me first" in the same sentence. And those two phrases don't go together, do they? Yes, Lord, but me first. And that's what he's saying. It's almost the same thing as the second would-be disciple. Yes, I'm going to follow you, but let me do this first. Let me do my own thing first, a good thing, but I'm putting it before following Christ. And so that's what we see in this passage. Three would-be disciples that were very close. They all wanted to follow Jesus, but something got in the way of following Jesus. And so this is more of a rhetorical question, but just think for a minute. Have you let any of these hindrances stop you from either following Christ or calling others to follow Christ?
Yet another said, I will follow you, Lord, but let me first say farewell to those in my home. Jesus said to him, no one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. If you would like more information on .w Evangelical Church, check out ericfoley.com.
Hear the word, do the word. .w